If you've ever felt drained after helping someone, resentful after saying yes, guilty after saying no, or you're confused about why you keep ending up in the same kind of relationships over and over again, then it might be because of boundaries. And that's what we're talking about today. Because boundaries aren't mean and they're not selfish. It's the difference between a love that grows and one that slowly kills your spirit. Today we're going to be covering boundaries in 5 different ways: who, what, where, when, and why. Because the why is the most important, and once you understand the why, you'll realize that boundaries aren't a luxury, they're actually a necessity, and I hope at the end of this, you'll be able to treat them like that. Starting off with who boundaries are for. It's easy for us to think that boundaries are just for toxic people, the worst kind of people. And that's part of it, but boundaries are for everyone. You need boundaries with family because family can create a sense of entitlement. And people can love you, and because this, they feel like they get access to you whenever they want. And sometimes they feel like they can treat you however they want. And it's not always the case that this is what allows love to grow. You get one life, and not everybody gets a key, and not everybody gets constant access. You need boundaries with partners because intimacy without boundaries generates confusion. An intimate relationship without boundaries isn't romance. It's fusion, and fusion is what destroys our sense of self and identity. You need boundaries with friends because some friendships thrive on mutual growth, and others thrive on quiet convenience. If someone only calls you when they need you, they're not really a friend, you're just a resource to them. You need boundaries at work because your coworkers and your boss are always going to take as much as you're willing to give. And if you're the person who's constantly giving and constantly doing all the extra work, then they're going to become reliant on you, and then you're going to make yourself this person at work that's always reliable and is always willing to do more, but at the sacrifice of your own well-being. You're going to end up burnt out, you're going to end up tired, and you're going to end up resentful at the workplace. And this is all because you didn't have the clearly defined boundary of work only gets so much. If you don't have defined edges, work will fill up your whole life, like gas, like drama, like a toddler with a marker running through the halls. You need boundaries with people online, especially strangers, because access is like a new form of currency, where if we give people access to us at all times, then we're not really saving any time for ourselves. And the modern world kind of trains us to be like this, to be accessible, to be immediate to respond, and to be constantly available to whatever's going on, to the notification, to the other people, to whatever it may be. But in reality, this doesn't actually help you. It doesn't make you any better, it just makes you harvestable. And this is perhaps one of the most important ones, is that you need boundaries with good people who have bad habits. Not villains, not monsters, just people who have learned either consciously or unconsciously that your lack of boundaries is beneficial to them. And the absolute most difficult is you need boundaries with yourself. Impulses, comfort-seeking, people-pleasing, doom-scrolling, avoiding difficult conversation, the just this once that you constantly do that ends up building a life that you quietly regret. If you want one line to remember about what boundaries aren't walls that keep people out. They're clearly defined lines that keep you intact. What is a boundary? Boundaries aren't just, hey, don't yell at me. They're more about the things that are touched physically and mentally by other people. And I'll explain. Your time, who gets it and how much of it. If you don't control your time, someone else will. Your attention, what you pay attention to, and what you allow to live inside of your mind. Your attention is like your life in a miniature form, because that's what fills up your mind. And if your mind is scattered, then that's what life is going to feel like. Your energy, your emotional labor, your support, your willingness to help. And it's noble to help and it's noble to care, but you need a boundary so that you don't become a dumping ground for someone else's problems. And if you make yourself this kind of person where people know that they could just come to you and dump all their problems off on you, then it's best to have a boundary so that you can not take on all of those emotions and exhaust yourself. You need boundaries with your money, the lending, the spending, the covering other people, or guilt buying things. Money problems generally aren't about money itself. It's about the way money is being used and the boundaries set around it. Body and space need boundaries. The physical touch, privacy, home access, and personal space require boundaries. If you allow your house to be a community center, then people are going to treat it as such. If you allow your body to be a community center, people will treat it as such. Again, you being accessible makes you harvestable to someone else's benefit. Communication needs boundaries. You need to understand what you will and won't engage with. And this one's a two-way street. If you don't want someone to yell at you, don't yell at someone else. It's kind of the golden rule is the standard. You don't have to engage with someone if they're communicating with you in a way that is beneath your standard. You also don't have to lower yourself beneath your own standard to communicate the way that they are. Tone and timing can be important. If someone only communicates with you through disrespect, you don't have to try and understand them. What's going on with them? Why are they like this? It's better just to protect yourself. If you want to revisit it in a time and place and with a calm tone later when they're not so upset or so disrespectful, that's fine, but you don't have to stick around for that engagement in that way. Sometimes topics need boundaries around them. Politics, religion, old family drama, the let's revisit this for the 900th time, even though nobody's going to change their opinion and we're not going to make any progress here, it's just going to deteriorate the relationship further. Just because something is important to someone else doesn't mean it has to get injected into your life like an IV drip every day. Digital access, DMs, group chats, response time, always being reachable or people expecting you to always be available needs a boundary. Your phone isn't a leash. You should be able to put it down, walk away from it, and that be perfectly fine. If someone always demands instant access to you, that's not closeness, it's control. Here's a simple test. Anything that constantly costs you peace needs a boundary. So where do boundaries matter? Most people think that boundaries are just relationship talk. We need to talk about the boundaries of our relationship. Be that with friends, with family, with your partner, your kids, whoever it may be. But the truth of the matter is that almost everywhere needs some kind of boundary in order for it to stay intact and in order for you to stay intact. You need boundaries in your home because your home isn't just a place that you go to sleep and cook your meals and live at. Your home is your nervous system's resting place. And if your home is constantly chaotic, then your mind is constantly chaotic. If your home is constantly cluttered, your mind is going to constantly feel cluttered. It's like trying to find your keys every day, but you can't remember where you put them. If you're constantly having this little bit of anxiety everywhere you go, even at your home, then you never have a place of peace that you can go to actually unwind and decompress. You need boundaries at work because work boundaries aren't just hours you put in, they become identity. A lot of our self-worth comes from our output, what we're able to contribute to the world. And if you don't have boundaries around work, all you're able to do is output without ever actually feeling the gratification of what you've done. Online needs boundaries. Online is boundary hell. It's so easy to get pulled into arguments, rage bait, comparisons, whataboutisms, doom scrolling, all of this stuff. And then what ends up happening is we end up anxious and cynical, and we think that it's the world that we live in, when really it's just the inputs that we're allowing into our attention span. Family gatherings and holidays is another one. You show up, you're 35, you're going to have dinner on Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden you're 14 again, and people treat you the way that they did when you were young. Boundaries keep you safe in this situation. They keep your identity intact. They allow you to remind yourself that you've grown beyond that person. Boundaries in this situation are less about winning and losing. It's about keeping your sanity. It's about being able to get through the event without feeling like you're being pulled backwards or regressing. And you need boundaries around your own personal mental space. This is the deepest of where boundaries are needed. If you let guilt, shame, remorse, and regret move in and live in your mind rent-free, then you're going to feel emotionally broken the entire time. It isn't to say that you should just YOLO and go out and do whatever and have no regrets, no remorse, no shame about anything. You should be improving over time, and you should look at mistakes as such and say, you know what, I could probably do better, and I probably should do better. I deserve to be better. But if you constantly dwell on those negative emotions without actually challenging and changing them, that's when you end up emotionally broken. And the boundary portion of this is the changing and improving. That's where you set parameters so that you don't make the same mistakes over and over again. Different places require different boundaries. A boundary at work might be polite but firm. A boundary at home might be direct. A boundary online might be quiet and just a block button. And yes, blocking someone is a boundary. You're not running, it's the same as cleaning your house, decluttering the mind. So when are boundaries required? And here's the truth. If you wait until you're angry, if you wait until the boundary has been violated, then it's already too late. Now, this may be a good opportunity to learn where your boundaries are if they get violated, but it's harder to create a boundary when your emotions are high than if you sit and think about what the boundary should be before you get to that point. They're easier to set when you're clear-minded, and they allow us to be aware of our breaking point so that we can disengage. You need boundaries before resentment begins to form. Resentment is a receipt. It's proof that you've betrayed yourself. It's proof that you've gone against your boundaries or against your morals. It's an indicator that you've gone beneath your own standard. You need boundaries when a pattern repeats. Once can be a mistake, twice as a warning, and 3 times as a failure to enforce a boundary, either on their end or on yours. Boundaries require accountability, us for ours and others for theirs. And sometimes those are difficult to enforce. But on the other side of them, once you get the courage to do it and once you enforce it, life gets so much better because it protects your peace of mind. You need boundaries when you feel that internal no. This one takes a little bit of self-awareness. When your mouth is saying sure, but your body is saying absolutely not, that's an indicator that you're about to cross a boundary and you don't want to do that. And you should reserve the right to change your mind. Maybe you say sure, but instantly you're like, you know what? No, I didn't mean that. No, I can't do that. That's fine. Because if you don't do that, what ends up happening is you engage in self-betrayal. And self-betrayal is always one of those things that generates that guilt, shame, resentment, remorse, and all of those negative feelings that we then have to carry away from that situation. It's always best to reserve the right to change your mind, even instantaneously. Even if sure comes out and what you wanted to say was no, do that instantly. You need boundaries when relationships change. If you get a promotion at work, you might have to conduct yourself differently. You might have to engage with work differently. If a relationship changes, you might have to conduct yourself differently. If a friendship changes, you might have to conduct yourself differently. When things change, we should always reserve the right to change the way the boundaries are around them. New job, new relationship, kids, marriage, moving in together, whatever it may be, different situations require different boundaries. Changing situations require changing boundaries. New seasons, new boundaries. It's like a thermostat. You don't run the winter setting in the summer, and you don't run the summer setting in the winter. You do each according to their need. And here's a brutally honest one. You need boundaries when you're afraid to set one. Because this comes from a place where you've learned that love is conditional, and that if you set a boundary, you won't receive love. And that's not correct. If you say no, you'll be punished with rejection, guilt, abandonment, attacked, or shamed. It means you don't just need a better boundary with that person, you need a better boundary with what you think love is, with your relationship to love itself. It means you need to challenge the belief that love requires your self-destruction, because it doesn't. Again, boundaries should create the conditions in which love grows, not the conditions in which love dies. So if you're afraid to set boundaries, there's a fear associated with love somewhere within you that needs to be changed. Finally, why you need boundaries. And this is the thesis. You need boundaries to protect you, because without them, love turns into an obligation. Compassion turns into self-neglect. Relationships turn into resentment. Your life becomes a series of yes decisions that you didn't actually mean. At the end of it, what do you have? You're the one who has the guilt, the shame, the regret, and the remorse of living this way, while everyone else got everything they wanted from you. Boundaries protect 3 things. They protect your peace. Peace isn't something that's passive, it's something that you build and then defend. Boundaries protect your identity, the sense of who you are and what you're about. And if you don't decide that for yourself, then the world's gonna assign that to you. They'll decide you're a helper, a savior, a punching bag, doormat, an entertainer, or an ATM. Boundaries prevent you from being drafted into a role that you're not even asking for, one that you don't even want. This is the most important one, is that boundaries protect your capacity to love. And this is the one people don't normally understand. Boundaries don't reduce love, they preserve it. Love without limits becomes self-destructive. And if you never say no, then your yes is meaningless. And if you don't have standards and enforce them, then the relationships you have just become training grounds for disrespect. And you will accept that in exchange for what you think is love, but it's not. They are what make love sustainable over a long period of time. It's what allows us to grow and bond together over the course of a lifetime. So if you're the kind of person who gives a lot, cares a lot, and helps a lot, good, that's great. Start giving with structure. Start caring with standards. Start helping with clarity. Because the goal isn't to become cold to the people you care about, it's to become stable. So now you know who, what, where, when, and why you need boundaries. If you want life to feel like it's yours, boundaries aren't optional. They are how you stay whole in a world that's constantly asking you to fragment yourself. Until next time, always stay up to no good.